Hello and welcome to On the Record, a debate-style television talk show where Bahamians will find the balanced, true and open debate they've been looking for. Lights out, that's what residents of New Providence experienced recently when the entire island went black and all that could be heard was the distant hum of a generator. Fires at the Bahamas Power and Light's Clifton Pier destroyed equipment 3 nights in a row. 3 fires, 3 nights. Fires aside, for some time now, though, Bahamas Power and Light has been rocked with controversy from the board versus the minister saga to the clear the House voluntary separation packages. Tonight, we're going to take a look into the land of BPL to see exactly what's going on. We'd extended an invitation to the CEO, Whitney Hasty, to be a guest on our show, but he had to decline due to what he said was the magnitude of work before him to restore what was destroyed. So tonight, our topic is Bahamas Power and Light, maintaining generation. And our guests are Anthony Christie, president of the Managers Union, BPL, Paul Maynard, president of the BEMU, BPL, and Terrence C.A. Bethel, the national vice chairman of the PLP. It's all on the record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Our discussion begins on the other side of this break.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about the fastest way to purchase the vehicle you want right from home.
With SBT Japan, we import used cars from Japan straight to you.
Car ownership doesn't have to be hard. Go to sbtjapan.com and sign up for free. Search for the car you want, place your order, and make a payment using any one of our convenient payment options. Once you pay the duty and tax to our in-house broker, we will clear the vehicle and even deliver it straight to your home. Sounds too easy? Well, shouldn't it be?
The Bahamian dream for generations has been home ownership. Do-it-all home improvement can help make your dream a reality with our affordable home solutions. We can provide a variety of packages with beautiful home designs and custom construction prices you can afford. Granite countertops, custom kitchen cabinets, crown moldings, porcelain tiles, and lots of storage. Call us today at 427-9343 or 322-3130. We're honest, reliable, and trustworthy.
Welcome back to On the Record. We are talking about the fires at BPL's Clifton Pier plant in this segment tonight. Our topic is Bahamas Power and Light, maintaining generation. And our guest, Anthony Christie, he's the president of the Managers Union at BPL. Paul Maynard, he's president of the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union, which is in effect the line staff, correct? President of that union. And Mr. Terrence Bethel, he is the national vice chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party. We brought him on, of course, to give opposition perspective in all of this. Gentlemen, welcome. From BPL, welcome to the show. Terrence, welcome back. So, unless you've really been living in a cave under a hole in a rock over the past few weeks, you would know that BPL has been in the news for various reasons, whether it's been the power outages, the back and forth between the former board and the minister, or more recently, the fires. You certainly have been making headlines for quite a while, but we're going to deal with, I think, what is possibly the most pressing issue right now, which would be the fires that would have taken place out at the plant. Any idea at this point what really would have contributed to all of that over that series of time? And it seems almost unprecedented to have 3 fires back to back. I put the question out there, John. You all from BPL, you all going to place a little while. You should be able to answer.
As for the fire occurring 3 times in a row, the point is, if you put water on a fuel fire, it's going to happen. I mean, water is oxygen. Remember that. And the fire was hot. Water turned to steam. It's oxygen. It's going to keep igniting itself. So that the minute they use foam, it hasn't happened since. They should have used foam.
So, okay, this may seem a little out of well, no, not for me asking, but it took 3 fires for them to realize that they needed to use foam. Is this the first time it's been a fire at PEC? I mean, from when it was PEC, I mean...
You got to talk to the fire department on that. I mean...
Let me say, assistance was given by the airport fire department, which uses foam. They have the foam in their trucks for putting out fires if there's a fire at the airport. That truck came, we had a foam available as well, and once they set it up, they used foam initially on the fire. I think the fire continued because you had a lot of hot spots, you have fuel in different pockets or areas, and it just may have reignited due to the massive heat that was involved with this fire, okay? So that's why you had reigniting of some areas, but it wasn't 3 consecutive fires of the same magnitude or intensity. It was just smaller fires that just popped up due to us not completely putting out. You're talking about a unit, an engine that has 3 levels, a basement, a main floor, and a top level. And if there's heat and any source of fuel to start a fire in any of these regions that the foam really couldn't get to, you're talking about putting foam on a surface, but then you have to look at what's happening inside. So that's probably what reignited the smaller, lesser intense fires that they were able to finally put out on Monday.
Are these kinds of things common dangers? I mean, is it something that you have in the line of sight, you prepare for? Is it an eventuality? Because you're talking about the generation of electricity, and whenever there's power is involved, there's always there's always a chance of something like this happening. But you know, from a consumer perspective, I'm thinking it's like an airport. You know, you prepare for a plane crash and hope that it doesn't happen. In an instance like this, is there a protocol in place to deal with these kinds of things when they happen?
Yeah, there is. There's a protocol in place, and it was instituted the minute it happened.
Yeah, the people on staff, the asset that burned down was in one particular station. We have 3 main stations, so obviously they isolated and they protected other assets in the other station. The whole island didn't go black, so they were able to control the fire to that area. They called assistance was given. So they did everything by procedure protocol in order to prevent us losing the entire plant and again going into
So it really
blackout.
could have been worse.
Yeah,
It could have been worse, of course.
They evacuated. The staff was evacuated immediately.
Yes.
And the Clifton Pier was shut down, which is the procedure, and that's why the Western End Island went off, because the Western End Island was fed from Clifton Pier.
I have to ask, but is there any at this point suggestion or any evidence to suggest arson?
No.
And you're pretty firm on that.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Minard, you said that this could cost, in effect, or somewhere, I'll put up $150 million to BPL. How is that? How are you able to make that estimate at this point?
Well, I see the CEO put something in the paper today. You know, I'm not trying to go back and forth with him on this whole situation. The point is that I know things that, you know, when you get to DA 11 and 12.
What's DA 11 and 12?
DA 11 and 12 is they're the 2 engines. That's what we call them. DA
Okay.
11 and 12.
Uh-huh.
Number 11, number 12.
Okay.
The assets we have down there. We need to get out of the reciprocating engine business. All right.
And explain that. What do you mean?
The reciprocating engines are engines like a car engine that pistons go up and down. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's a maintenance nightmare. We need to embrace new technologies. I am fighting for my members who are the line staff, who are in generation, to be recertified, retrained into the new technology. We also need to start to incorporate renewable technology into our the way we do business. Without DA10, for instance, without number 10, for instance, engine number 10, which has a boiler working, once that goes down, now we have to use ADO, which is automatic diesel oil, to run the other units. The thing about it is Blue Hills is running fully on automatic diesel oil. That's why your light bill is very high this month.
I wondered what was happening. I almost had a heart attack when I picked up my bill
And
this month.
diesel fuel is very, very, very expensive. And we need to get away from that. Now, there's a thinking within the corporation now and the leadership that we should go back to Bunker C. You know, trying to go back. We need to go forward.
What's Bunker C?
Bunker C is, Mr. Christie can explain that.
Heavy fuel oil. That's basically a much cruder, thicker, less refined product. that's used as fuel as compared to automotive diesel,
Why
which is a
would
cleaner
the
product.
suggestion be made to go back to that? It would seem that that's a little
Well,
regressive.
it's cheap. It's not going back. That's what we use now.
Yeah,
And we have the facility and we have the storage, and our plant is built around using either HFO or the automotive diesel oil. All power plants in the whole world, their goal is to produce power as cheap as possible, okay? We have the capability of burning the heavy fuel oil. That's the cheapest fuel available. For your fuel charge on your bill to go down, it would be in our best interest to burn what we have available that's cheapest, and that's HFO. Now, we have to do it the right way, the safe way, the most environmental friendly way. We have systems in place. It's just a matter of us getting those back to the way they should be. But HFO is a fuel source. It's cheap.
And Mr. Maynard, you don't think that that's the right way to go?
No, I
Why
think
not?
that we need to switch now to propane, LNG, and incorporate propane, LNG, with renewables, and that'll give us new technology, and it'll also train Bahamians into new technology.
There is a proposal on the table for that, and I want to come back to that later on in the discussion. But Mr. Bethel, I want to get you into this discussion. Listening to this, and I always draw on my own experience. I have been, as a reporter for over 20 plus years, been covering various things relative to BEC and the issues that have come out almost on an annual basis, or come about from year to year. Successive governments have come and gone, and we still seem to be having the same discussions, just with new elements. We can't seem to keep power on a consistent basis. Bills are still high, and there are always some issues on the table that seem to keep reappearing, dressed up as different things, but when you look deeply, they seem to be the same thing. From the political side now, I mean, people are annoyed. They're tired.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a consumer.
Before you even answer, there is sufficient blame to go around.
Absolutely. One of the things that we have, in the decision-making frameworks that we have to use, right? We have to deal with facts. And what I find is that over the course of several years, there's much less dependent on facts than a lot of opinions. And what I'm thinking that's happening now is, when the Progressive Liberal Party brought in Power Secure, there was a plan in place. I don't know what the plan is now in place for BPL.
Do you know what the plan was then?
Well, we know that there was a plan in place. We had Power Secure in there. They were working a plan that would allow us to be to 30% renewable energies by 2030, which is consistent with the Sustainable Development Goals. These gentlemen also talk about the fact that we are needing to introduce renewable energies. We totally agree. What we ought to be doing in the country is getting the facts, and that being helping us to understand how they come about, the decisions that they come about. And I think that there's a change in the type of Bahamian you have now watching over these things. We used to complain all the time, but we used to say just keep my light on. But now people want to understand how you're making decisions, because it appears that after all these years of making decisions, basically they haven't produced what we expect. Now, we must not deny that considerable growth in New Providence contributes significantly to some of our problems. But we must also realize that that's a part of what the mandate of the corporation is, to manage themselves.
I don't accept in any instance that you're going to say growth, because part of any company, corporation operation is to anticipate growth.
No, exactly.
And we haven't had, we've had an increase in population, etc., but it hasn't been sort of off the scale. But something you brought up, and I'm glad these gentlemen are here. Former government would have brought in Power Secure. Right. The new government decided to get rid of that, to get that management company. In your estimation, was Power Secure going in the right direction? Was this move by the government to rid itself of that management company the right move?
Power Secure was being hampered from doing what they had to do. There was interference.
By whom?
Well, by the executive director at the time. There was massive interference. See, you have to realize that special interests plays, just as you do in the States, they play a big role in this whole BEC saga. All right, the status quo. the fuels we're using, it's all special interests. And that needs to be dealt with. We can no longer afford the special interests. This country is going to sink under if we continue down that road. And we need to back the special interests on the side and decide, you know what, we can do this for the poor people.
So people involved, you're saying at the executive level, at the executive director level, whether at the political level, you're saying that there was special interest and interference?
Yes, special interest. See, listen, we all know who the fuel supplier is, and we need to be serious. We need to decide, listen, we're going to take BEC to new technology, using new fuels, and we need to get out of this. We can keep with the whole technology business. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I feel, well, the government, when they brought in Power Secure, the government at the time, they paid Power Secure from the jump $1 million for a business plan. That business plan was produced, and they started to follow the script from the business plan. Like Mr. Maynard said, I believe they were hampered in some of the things they wanted to do from the government straight down, because again, it involved raising rates or increasing and trying to get to the capital we need to do the improvements we need at the company, and that's where the government would have hampered some of the initiatives.
Justifying raising rates at that time when you had hundreds of people who were without electricity,
Because
who just could not afford it?
You need money to improve the plants.
But how do you justify even at that point when you have hundreds of people who are without electricity because they cannot afford it, and you're talking about increasing power even more when people are struggling, and that is a huge impediment to business and life in this country.
Jerome, you have to look at the big picture,
yes.
Right? For instance, you have propane plants. Propane is cheap. They throw it away in the States. Propane is very cheap. You could switch now to propane, right? The government says that they're gonna go with Shell, whatever. The point is, Shell is the biggest distributor of LNG plus propane in the world. Right? Now, Blue Hills right now, we have about 5 units that we can switch right now.
Less than that.
But to propane. I need to do that right away. You need to do that right away. Now you have a significant savings going there. All right? Because propane is cheaper. And you now need to decide what you're going to do with Clifton Pier. I mean, Clifton Pier is an environmentalist nightmare. Believe me.
You need only drive past there to figure it out.
Let's keep it simple, right? I mean, we have to invest in order to get to the point where we're using the cheapest fuel and the rate goes down. The biggest component of your bill is the fuel charge. It was, 19 cents this last month. If you want that to be 8 cents or 6 cents, plus the 10 cents would be paid to be in line with a Florida Power and Light. I think they pay 11 cents per kilowatt hour total. For us to get there, we have to use a cheaper fuel. Okay, by investing and getting money to build a new plant so that we can incorporate the cheapest fuel on the market now, we have to do that. So there's going to be some need for capital. Where's the money going to come from?
Gentlemen, I'm going to stick a pin right there because I wanted to continue that particular segment of the discussion. When we return, more on BPL right here on The Record. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
Every time I'm in the Bahamas, I use Rev Go Play.
Cut.
Here come that fool. It's packing. Here he comes.
Yo.
Wait, Omar coming?
Boy, this Rev Go Play, solid.
Rev, you and us together.
We're back with more on the record. BPL recently disengaged hundreds of staff members with voluntary separation packages. We're discussing the effects of those employee disengagements as well as some other issues relative to BPL. Gentlemen, as we went into the break, we really had a vibrant discussion about this whole issue of the cost of fuel and how that is passed on to the consumer. Like many others, I got a shock this month when I went to collect my bill. I missed this for 2 months. But I had seen other people, lamenting about the same thing on social media. But, we see that, and we experience it, and that is a huge impediment to life in the country. Businesses and business owners will tell you that they pass that on to consumers, that the high cost of electricity is passed on to consumers, which affects the price of everything. Right. People every day have to make life decisions about what they're going to pay or not pay because of the cost of electricity. And then you have to say to yourself, can I live without electricity? I mean, I read just yesterday, the minister said that, we don't want people to have to make decisions about whether to buy food or pay for electricity. That is a real issue that we live with every end of the month. I'm anxious about what my electricity bill is. In my house, we live in virtual darkness. I haven't cut everything off. You all been living here a long time. Walk through the house in the darkness. Why you didn't need lights? But these, you may laugh, but these are the realities for the consumer every day.
Yeah, but there's things that you can do. You don't have to tell me. For 4 years, I've been an advocate for the public, especially the poor and the mothers who having to choose whether they can feed their children or pay light bill. All right, I'm very passionate about this situation, and it annoys me, and we're still at this point now. But there's some things you can do. You can get LED lighting. You can switch your TVs to LED. And you can do some stuff
everybody
like that.
can afford that. LED lights are expensive.
Okay,
I remember
fine.
when I did the switch, that's expensive.
Yeah, but okay, fine. But the point I'm making is this. See, we've been messing around with this situation for all these years now. I've been president for just over 4 years. And since I've become president, I've been advocating to get this, whatever you got to do to get the deal made, do it. Now, the problem is, BEC cannot, the Bahamian people cannot afford a new plant. We cannot afford it. We just can't. So you're going to have to get a partner. Get your partner. The partner is going to build a plant and it's going to sell generation to us. That's what it is. We got to get it done. The point is, get it done.
So what's the problem with getting it done? And why can't we seem to get it? Why are we still grappling with these high fuel costs month to month?
I mean, it's a huge deal. We're talking about $300 million on the table. For 25 years, you have to really make sure this is the right deal, the right decision.
And this is the deal we're talking about with Shell,
or
North America,
or whoever comes.
Okay, this is the one that is being debated. Yeah, there's a possible deal on the table.
The corporation from BEC to BPL has a plan, or would have had a plan for generation expansion in Providence and the Family Islands, and that not only means expansion but also replacement of older assets. And for the years that I've been there, as well as Paul's mentioned, we have fallen down and not keeping up with this plan of expansion. The last unit bought was GT5 at Blue Hills. That was a plan to put that in place along with a steam turbine unit for combined cycle. That was to add generation capacity. Then again, the next step would have been to improve the Clifton Pier plant, either replace or improve the units that are there so that we can use Clifton. Clifton's supposed to be the base load. They burn the cheapest fuel, again, like I said, so that would have given us cheaper fuel charge. But we have to look to the future. Now, because of the loss of those two assets, the fire, something has to happen now. So anything it has to happen right now. They have to decide if they're going to go with Shell or put out another RFP. Units have to be put on the ground right away.
Well, but sir, and I'm bringing you into this. As we, I always used to say, Rome burns while Nero fiddles. Yeah. We are still talking. Right,
and that's the problem.
We are still talking. And go ahead, sir.
In terms of public policy, right? What ought to be, we ought to be very clear where the government stands on what the next direction is. We are not clear on that at this point. But it appears to me that when you do the decisions, yes, we have to conserve cash, because to pass on that cash needs to the people, like you say, will be just not, won't be appropriate. I mean, people just can't bear with what they're dealing with now. So I imagine that any decision the government makes needs to be clear about how do you handle the capitalization needed, and how do you control the cost of this to the average Bahamian consumer in order to spur business instead of how the government
Mr.
seems to be
Bethel,
doing everything.
do you, though, accept that the Bahamian people have been failed by consistent governments in this regard? That consistent governments have consistently failed the Bahamian people in addressing this problem? It's like the dump.
Well, I mean, if here we stand, then it must be the result of where we have come from. I agree. What I'm saying is, though, this government has come in saying that they can change the things, and it's going to be in focus on the people and the people's time. And at the same point, 1 year later, which is a year ago, they fired Power Secure. What is the plan? They didn't have a plan in place before because they, I don't know why they came in without a plan and got rid of the people who had one. I just figured that what they should be doing is try to tweak that plan that they had in place if it didn't meet what they were looking for.
Okay.
The plan obviously had some goals and stuff set up. What have they done with that plan? Just answer the questions. Just try to tell us
one
what's
of the
happening.
things that has happened, which brings us to where I really want to be in this discussion, is the disengagement, the voluntary separation of hundreds of employees from the company. Gentlemen, you are on the inside. You represent those employees. What effect has that had on the ability of BPL to operate efficiently?
Jerome, listen. In this whole, the union asks for, lobbied the minister over repeatedly for this VSEP. Lobbied the chairman.
You asked for it?
Yes, for the VSEP.
Why did you think it was necessary?
The members wanted it, so we
They wanted to go.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is this. Once it was announced, we had a meeting, both me and Ms. Christie had a meeting with the minister and the chairman. And I said to him that my counterpart at Batelco Union at the time, which is Bernard Evans at the time, and also Leon Williams, said to me exhaustively, listen, you're going to have to do this right or you're going to have a problem. I realized that what they were saying was true, and I also exhaustively said this repeatedly, over and repeatedly, over and repeatedly, over and repeatedly. I said, listen, you cannot let everyone go. It can't happen. You have to phase, you have to draw down 30 at a time over a period. And we had a period from this year, June this year to June 2020.
So clearly they didn't listen.
No, and that's the problem.
And then you start from 30 years plus, then you do 25 years.
But a part of the most important part of the situation was knowledge transfer. You have to transfer the knowledge. All right?
So people go with that knowledge.
That's
that
correct.
is a problem.
Now,
Exactly.
that already happened. We now here. Now, what needs to happen is to say, okay, you know what? We made a mistake at this thing. Let's call the unions back in and let's get these people who we need to get back.
You know what's interesting, sir? That I'm so happy you brought that up. I was at ZNS when they attempted a similar exercise. A lot of those people are back there.
Right.
I was also at BTC when that exercise happened. A lot of those people are back there. So my question is, we seem to be what I call the definition of insanity.
Yes, but see,
we doing the same thing over and over.
But at BPL, we had a heads up. BPL said to us, you can't do it the way we did it. You got to do it a different way.
Yeah, BTC said.
And I said,
BTC
said that, right? And I told them, listen,
Why was
we
the
can't go on this
advice? Why
road.
was the advice not taken?
Well,
Why was it?
I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
Again, they are.
No, that's a very serious. That's a very valid point.
Power Secure also wanted to reduce headcount, and they approached us and they had a plan. Again, they wanted to change the pension agreement to allow people 25 years to be pensionable.
Right.
And again, they was going to start reducing their headcount by offering separation or allowing those people to retire. Natural attrition. Right. So that was what we was expecting. So now this new regime came in on management, and they said, okay, now
This is under the new board, or when you say new regime now,
government board and management.
Government
Board management, because again, we changed the top three. We changed the whole
We changed the whole top three.
the whole top level.
All right.
And they came in, they got rid of Power Secure, and they had their plans, and they have their targets. So one of the targets was reduction of headcount. But again, how they did it, we're feeling the effects of that now. It was not done, and we saw the signs from the BTC, from the Z&S. We should have known better.
What would the PLP have done differently?
Well, certainly. I mean, we hired Power Secure. That was, he says, he says by his own words that is exactly. They had a different approach. There are some people who go around the PLP now saying PLP hires and F&M fires, and obviously that's what you've been seeing. And their need to fire people seems to overwhelm them when they get to deal with a situation. So it seems to be more important than that they fire.
You would have heard these gentlemen say here upon that there was a need to get rid of some people within the
right,
and the union
to properly transfer the talent and the skills and natural separation.
Right, but see, what I'm saying is, I ain't getting into the politics side of it. The point I'm making is this. They now, at this thing, to come to Jesus moment and says, okay, you know what? Bring the unions back in. We make a mistake. Now, let's see.
Let's clean it up.
Let's clean it up. Right. We need to clean the mess up.
So who's running the place now?
What, BBL?
Yeah.
The CEO?
You've gotten rid of these people. The knowledge has left the building, per se. How is the place running if all of these people have gone who know what to do?
It's a touch and go situation. It's exhausting because guys have now to do 3 and 4 jobs to move the corporation on. We're professionals at BPL, and what we have to do to make it work, we do. But it just won't do. The problem is, there needs to be knowledge transfer. We have a lot of young guys that are inexperienced, and we don't want them to get hurt. See, in the electricity business, you can't. If you make a mistake, you're in the grave. Simple as that. It ain't no ifs, ands, or buts. The point is, the knowledge needs to be transferred. I need to bring back the people who and then give them a time to transfer the knowledge.
Are there foreign engineers in that mix now?
No. We don't have foreign engineers coming in because they can't function in our environment.
Well, there are some. But to answer your question, who's running the corporation? His members and my members, we're running the corporation. We continue to do our job.
There were some, so there are some. There's outside.
Well, there are some consultants that were brought in, some people on contract that are foreign engineers that are Abaco is an example, and then there's I think 1 or 2 on the ground here.
So what concerns me now is, heaven forbid, we have a hurricane.
Oh, you're in trouble. Big.
Why do you mean?
And that's my greatest fear. I've said over and repeatedly, and I said to the board when me and Ms. Christie met with the board a couple of weeks ago, listen, my greatest fear is a hurricane rolls through here and we're in trouble. See, you have linesmen out there, and they're hoping, if hurricane comes, we could just bring them back. Don't happen that way. Some of them are into their other lives now.
And once you moved on from place,
you ain't into that.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is you need to have respect for people. And as I said to them, you need to, as soon as I thought we were supposed to have a meeting this week. Nobody let us know anything yet. But as soon as this week, they were supposed to call the unions and say, okay, now we need to bring these guys back. And I told them, you need to bring these guys back on the compound. You need to have them there. It's up to them.
We've learned some major lessons from the previous hurricanes that hit us. I didn't have power for 2 weeks under Matthew on some islands, so still just getting back to normalcy after the hurricanes that hit them. So the corporation should have learned some lessons. We should know what to have in place and how to prepare, because the hurricane will hit. Our goal is to make sure there's no loss of life and that we can restore quickly.
But you have now a new board.
Yes.
That does not have the experience and the know-how to deal with something.
I wouldn't say that.
They don't? They do?
I wouldn't say that. See,
you think they do?
It's a board drives the government policy. A lot of it is common sense. All right? If the unions say to you, listen, the VSEP was done wrong and you need to make an adjustment. It's just a matter of making the decision and saying to the CEO, listen, you need to go that route, all right? And you need to do it now.
So my question then is the CEO or is the new board, are they open to these discussions and do they seemingly are going to take your suggestions?
The new board recognizes. They recognize. They're not stupid. They are astute. A lot of them are business people. They understand. It's up to them.
Christy, what is your biggest fear should we get hit by a hurricane?
My biggest fear is any loss of life, make sure that we have everything in place to protect the safety of the workers who are at the plants. Some of those guys that get stuck out there for the entire storm and they have to work. They literally work 24 hours or more, and they make literally the roads, if the road is damaged, trees across the road, they're stuck out there.
They're there.
So again, protection of the workers at the plant, make sure we have stuff to fight fires. We have equipment there, we have enough fuel in place for them to survive, water, etc. Then we look at the assets, how do we protect the assets? Then we look at, okay, the storm is going to hit us, we have to now restore. Do we have the trucks on the ground? Do we have the poles on the ground? Do we have the cabling, etc. needed? And the manpower. And again, we have to get the resources from Carolac. We usually always share resources. So that's the key. That's what my greatest fear is, that we don't have these things in place so that when the storm comes, we're able to, get things back to normalcy as quick as possible.
Well, gentlemen, I don't have to tell you this, but when it comes to the restoration of power especially, it seems that's when the Bahamian people are most unreasonable and irrational.
Right.
I don't have to tell you all that, and I sit all the time in whatever space I'm in, and I always say to people that, these things take time, and certainly they are being done by dedicated men and women who obviously have to work according to a plan, but our people are completely irrational.
Well, no, that's because we don't say that. That's because we don't. No. We have to give them the proper information for them to process stuff. The storm is approaching North Carolina right now, Florence, right?
Right.
And they've already said expect power outages for 2 months. Off the bat. They've already said that.
They said evacuate.
Right, and evacuate, and once you think about expect power outages.
So we have not told our people in the past expect power outages?
No. See, people expect to be on the next day.
Right.
And
no matter how many times you tell them.
No.
Really?
What BPL needs to do is give them realistic expectations. You tell them, look here, man, we can be off for 2 months. So now people know. Well, they did say we can be off for 2 months.
God help us all, gentlemen. We are at the point.
I understand people are unreasonable and irrational at that time, but I agree. I concur that a lot of times the communication is not clear enough to make for more people to reduce. Where people are not generally irrational.
Hopefully, the board is watching, and those who are in a position to do so will know that. Should we be hit by a hurricane, let's do a better job with communicating with the people. Stay with us. On the Record returns on the other side of this break.
Hi, I'm here to tell you about the fastest way to purchase the vehicle you want right from home.
With SBT Japan, we import used cars from Japan straight to you.
Car ownership doesn't have to be hard. Go to sbtjapan.com and sign up for free. Search for the car you want, place your order, and make a payment using any one of our convenient payment options. Once you pay the duty and tax to our in-house broker, we will clear the vehicle and even deliver it straight to your home. Sounds too easy? Well, shouldn't it be?
We are in our second season of On the Record, and we thank you, our viewing audience, for allowing us into your homes every Thursday at 8 p.m. We value your opinion, and we want you to be a part of our discussions. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and comment on our exciting topics. Remember, it's all on the record. And welcome back to the second half of On the Record with Anthony Christie, Paul Maynard, and Terence Bethel. Gentlemen, one of the things that has plagued BPL, particularly in the past few weeks, and outside of the issues of the fire and loss of power, has been the very public spat between the minister and now former board that brought to light a side of I guess, aside of the operations that I think the public never saw, never seen. I'm just curious from an internal perspective, what that has done to the staff, to the morale, to the operations.
that caused a problem, really. Staff morale was low because everyone was thinking about, well, what next? And I think that this board needs to do a good job. I mean, they have to do a very good job in order to raise the staff morale. I mean, they're going to have to do something in order to raise the staff morale. Staff morale is low, especially after the VSEP, and they were forced to do 3 and 4 jobs, and so they're going to have to raise the staff morale.
What are the other challenges facing this new board now in place?
Well, I don't think they want to have the same issues that was for the old board. They want to make sure that they don't get caught up in no type of scandal or things that are unclear.
So
not
one of the
transparent.
minister's complaints was that nothing seemed to be getting done. They couldn't get some things done.
Again, based upon either indecision or infighting amongst the board. And ultimately, you ask the question, who's in charge? Okay, we had a board that was put in place by the government. Someone from that board then became CEO. And again, he disassociated himself from the board. His roles and responsibilities had changed. And he became ultimately the one making the decision along with either the minister and whoever else is involved. But ultimately, who was in charge? So when you had that, you had an executive chairman of the board who would have been making suggestions or decisions and not being listened. So there was always that infighting. Again, who was in charge? And we have to have this board follow whatever the norm is. The CEO gives management, they manage the company. The board gives, they oversee what he's doing, I guess, for transparency purposes, etc. And the government chimes in. But again, once they're operating together, we run smoothly. But if there's any indecision, infighting, or challenge of who's in control, who's ultimately making the decision, or if a decision is made and the board doesn't agree, and then they go ahead with it, then we see what happens with the old board happening again.
Was that being, did staff members see that? Was that
From the start.
That's
really?
exposure. And we
You
spoke
can't,
about that long time.
you can't hide stuff from the staff. You're there. The staff knows. The staff knows everything.
What's going on in you?
That's correct. And see, if you believe that we keeping this from the staff, you got nothing coming. The staff is very aware what's going on. Very aware.
And not.
But some of the concern, of course, is if you hear the back and forth between the minister and the former chair, there are some very real concerns. I mean, especially when the minister starts of saying, "Oh, the former chair only interested in get a make a bill." I mean, the type of things that they say about why, if you had these problems with these people at the beginning of, why did you reappoint them? If there were these problems, so what went amok so bad that it got to the point that this all of it had to come to an head after you just reappointed them 19 days before? I mean, that appears to be like really, since the staff know, I mean, maybe they could tell us. I mean, I don't know why the board, the minister would have acted in the way he did. I mean, it just seemed to be too punitive. And
At the beginning, the minister said, I've made a decision and I will not speak to it again.
Right.
And I thought, from a personal perspective, okay, that probably is a good thing. There's obviously some things in the background. But everything seemingly unraveled when everybody started going to the media. Would it have been more prudent and made more sense for each side to have stood down and been silent? Or do you think what happened was necessary for some things to be brought to light?
I think it's necessary. The public knows, and now we're in the type of society where everything is shared on WhatsApp, information, whether it's truthful or not. Social media is taking over. So it's good that everybody knows and people can discern information. They can take it in and understand something is not right here. Something needs to be corrected, because again, they're not doing, it seems like, what they're supposed to be doing. And that's what's put on the table. So it was a good thing.
Yeah. But the president is decided with the people who didn't seem to be doing the right thing. That's what it appears to be.
We still have challenges, and again, that's where his challenge is now. How do we solve the problem?
How do you think, though, this is going to affect, or what happened, how is that going to affect the work of the board going forward? Because if I'm a board member, and I'm a newly appointed member, or reappointed, and I'm looking at what would have happened in a very public way, as a result of some disagreements or inability to get some things done, first thing I'm going to think to myself is, I don't want myself to fall into that same category. I don't want that to happen to me. And so, back to my original question, how is that going to affect the effectiveness and the work of the new board?
Well, that's the danger of accepting a board appointment. You decide to accept it. So obviously, in the back of your mind, you know what's going on. I mean, in the back of your mind, you know what potentially can happen down the road. Mm-hmm. And so you need to decide in your mind whether or not you can accept it or not. The fact that you accepted it, you need to stay away from certain pitfalls. And if you get into a situation where and this board seems to be a board of business people, an accountant, and engineer, right? And so they don't have to put up with aggravation, so they just walk away. But I mean, but then that poses a greater problem for the minister. Well, okay, now two boards messed up on the due, so he's going to have to
comment.
Right.
Yes.
So now he's going to have to walk a tightrope to make sure the board functions right properly, because otherwise, in my opinion, it may look bad on him.
Mm-hmm. Is the solution to the generation problems, the problems with the board, even in terms of VSEP and separation from the company, is the solution to all of these wrapped up in the full privatization of BPL?
It's not that simple. It's not that simple. See, listen, I've said from since I became president, at BPL, if you change the equipment and the fuel and you upgrade the T&D system, you'll be fine. It's no more, no less.
That seems like a very simple solution.
You don't need yes, but see, wrapped up in that is a whole list of special interests, people who want to do some stuff and all this other stuff. So, but you need to come to Jesus' moment and say, you know what, I don't care. I'm backing all that on the side, and this is where we're going. I mean to go there.
You always refer to the BTC example. Was privatization the solution for BTC? What did we see happen there?
I was going to ask this very same question. We saw.
What are the pros and cons from that?
Exactly, and that's the point. It just there seems to be an F&M policy to just privatize everything, but a lot of those things have to do with things that are probably 1960s ideas about economics and these things. What it seems to be the problem is that when we have a solution in place, right? Let's work with the solution, tweak the solution, see how the solution works. What we do is we cancel the total package, and if there is the complaint that you didn't know what the power secure arrangements were and the goals and what the plan was, then produce your plan. Why isn't the government producing a plan at all?
Do you accept though that when you have government involved in running business, it's inevitable that you will have situations that occurred with the board happening, because whenever a minister is able to give or has ultimate authority or ultimate say-so, what is good for the business may not be politically expedient.
No, but I don't believe BPL is set up like that. I think that under the new charter, once they decided it was going to bring power secure in, it's not set up for the minister to interfere. It's not. No. If you look at the.
So the minister being inappropriate is what you're saying,
it's not right. It's not set up for that to happen. It's not supposed to be set up. That was why Power Secure agreed to come in, because they had full management control of the situation.
So what happened?
I don't know.
Something went awry. If the minister's not supposed to be involved, as you say, according to policy, what did we just go through?
I know the 2015 agreement. The 2015 agreement, it was made for Power Secure to come in, and they were supposed to take the control of the management and deal with it.
Was that amendment nullified with the firing of Power Secure?
No.
No, because it went to Parliament. Because it went to Parliament, I think it's law.
It still is in existence.
Yes, it's got to be in existence. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, these were the things that were in place. Obviously, these are the what the present government wants to deal with and follow, but instead of amending the legislation, they just start to act outside of it, and that is a problem.
Gentlemen, we are at the point of our final break. We will be back as we continue our discussion on the record, but after this.
Hi, I'm Davriel, and welcome to Rev Tips, where we answer your most important Rev service questions. Today, I want to talk to you about the exciting new Rev Go Play app. But how does it work? Well, you start by opening a Cable Bahamas My account, so you can take your TV everywhere. Here's a few notes to get you started watching TV on the go. Step 1. Create a Cable Bahamas My account. Step 2. Download the latest version of the Rev Go Play app from the Google Play or iTunes App Store. Step 3. Log into the app using your email and My account password. Step 4. Enjoy your Rev TV on the go. Well, that's our Rev tip for today. Be sure to join us next time for more information on how to get the best out of all your Rev services.
For seemingly a month now, every day the headlines, or somewhere near to the headlines, have been carrying a story on the goings-on at Bahamas Power and Light. We have been waiting for the right time to address it. It seemed like the perfect time on the heels of what was probably an unprecedented event with 3 fires in 3 days at the Clifton plant, which affected power for some time, but certainly opened up the discussions again to, I guess, a bird's eye view of a lot of problems that are plaguing and have plagued the Bahamas, have been plaguing, BPL for some time now. Mr. Bethel, I'm going to start on your end of the table now. It's been a little more than a year since the Free National Movement has come to government, new minister, new policies relative to BPL and power generation, etc. But you have the opposition that is still actively criticizing a lot of what is going on. Right. And the question raised, and the questions are continuing to be raised, well, why weren't these things dealt with when you all were in power
when
5 years ago?
When we were in power, we had a plan put together by a company called Power Secure. Everybody knows that happened. The significant policy strategy of the FNM is stop, cancel, and review. Mostly stop, cancel, and create new bills.
But within that 5 years, sir, I just want to stick up in for a moment, but within that time, were there any major developments or improvements at BPL that you can tout or speak to?
Well, first, there was finally somebody putting together a plan in the first place. There was no significant plan in place at all. So the very thought that there was a solution being put together, and these gentlemen have said, there are things about that plan that have been very good. And it seems that the entire thing has been abandoned. One of the things also was the moving of the government control of these things and trying to create an atmosphere where the board could function independently and better. I think that those are major advances in a country like the Bahamas, where over time we need to try to tweak our ways into getting these things to operate better. And it has to operate better structurally. And we were working on that. Probably not everything was absolutely perfect, but that was you have the ability and the professional expertise amongst the persons like these gentlemen here who could help to guide the board because they have more autonomy to move things forward. But now you can't step in with this political interference now, which is the problem why these things are not working, because they wanted more, obviously, to have more control than the present legislation allows them to have.
Mr. Menard, do you agree? Do you think that the former administration, through Power Secure, had put some things in place that were going to work?
No, I don't totally agree with him. The executive director back then was interfering like it's no tomorrow.
This is Mr. Batnager?
That's correct. He was interfering like it's no tomorrow. It was never gonna work with interfering, with the way he was interfering. It was never gonna work the way he was interfering. That was never gonna happen. And as you see, the new board kept him as executive director, and you know the interference continued. And so what did they do? They got rid of him. So I mean, you have to, for these things to work. And I mean, I'm sure Batnager has financial experience, etc., etc. But when it comes to the power company, it's a whole new ball game. If you want to do something next year, you have to make the decision today to do that next year. That's just the way it is in our business. All right. So you know, it ain't well, you know, I can hold up on it, and we got to do this and go back out and all this other. You know, if you need to do something next year, you got to make a decision right now to do that next year, and that's the way it is. And my problem with the whole thing now is that you know, Power Secure did one good thing, one very good thing, where they decided that they were going to sabotage with BWSC, which is an absolute and total must. Because
what entity?
BWSC is Burmeister, Burmeister Wayne, Scandinavian Contractors. And that's an absolute and total must. BWSC has never, ever given this country the proper service. They've been here since 1990, when DA9, when the diesel engines 9 and 10 came. And they were, and part of the agreement was for them to adequately train our people. And they have never, ever done that. Never, ever fulfilled that obligation. Because they've always wanted to hang around. And they've been here from government to government, and Power Secure recognized that they had to go. And we need to go along with that, with Power Secure's plan.
It's good to see you.
Well, Power Secure, I believe, their key things that they wanted to put in place and that they had the expertise in, which is probably why they were chosen, was on the customer service side, the implementation of AMI, the automatic billing system that would help us improve our revenue collection. Then they had expertise in distributed power generation, and again the grid, the T&D side, as well as solars or renewables. And all of these were three main components that we didn't have the expertise on. We may have had the management, the engineers in place, employed Bahamians, but again, they brought these expertise and experience that could be added to what we were doing. So that's where the advantage came. And I think they were on the way to doing that. We went on many trips to look at different LNG suppliers and systems in place that we could implement in New Providence. So this was the goal. This is where they were heading, but their time was cut short in a sense. And they, as we said before, were hindered in some of the things that they wanted to do. They did do some immediate improvements. Revenue collection went up. Accounts receivables went down. So we had a lot more cash inflow. They were doing a lot of training. The staff morale was very high. Very high. So all of that was key things that they did, but on the generation and T&D side, we did not get to where we needed to be before the next election.
Some of the one of the recommendations that you made earlier was the use of propane and this LNG plant. Is that really the answer to a lot of the problems that BPL is facing right now?
Well, in my opinion, in my view, it is. See, you want to look at new technology. You want to look at modern technology. We need to bring the Bahamas into the modern world. I mean, if you want to stay back to reciprocating engines and all that other stuff, is fine. But I mean, in the Caribbean, I think Barbados has put in an LNG turbine. Jamaica has. You know, they're moving along, and we need to move along. All right, and we need to bring the cost of electricity down. And I always say to every minister, listen, do you realize if we could just reduce the cost of electricity by 50%, do you realize it's a new economy? And it is.
Most
Right?
definitely,
And we
yeah.
need to get this economy moving.
You are so correct on that. So you get the last word.
Wanted that LNG thing it's a long time ago. We got run out of office trying to put LNG in. So
I think that was Leslie Miller's project
Yeah, but,
many years ago.
Yep. So that's, I mean, since we have been under this new government, we have seen a lot of really, really bad moves and decisions. We want everything to work better because the Bahamian people deserve better. And that is what the Bahamian people said they wanted, that even despite whatever job the PLP did, they wanted even better. But that certainly has not been the way it's gotten.
Okay.
I just want to note, I mean, Providence has been the focus the last weeks or so,
Yes.
but we need to also
I'm happy you brought that up,
remember the Family Islands as a part of BPL, as a part of they need power the same way.
Yeah, I know
Providence does.
Abaco has been challenged.
So
in the past
any
few
focus
weeks.
on whatever happens in New Providence, we have to look at what is going to happen in all the Family Islands, all the way down to Long Key, which has the least amount of customers. We have to look at the renewables, implementation of the solar to ease up the fuel costs, and ultimately that will ease up the fuel charge.
It would seem that
in
those
Providence.
islands and those environments would be ideal for solar power. I mean,
Indeed, they're almost like labs in a sense, where you can set up the small communities, small impact. You can gradually put things in place and see how it works, and then translate it.
Right.
No, but actually, Power Secure had a plan to put solar in Exuma, Eleuthera, Long Island, and I think that, and Andros, I think Bimini. I think that they need to. They still have Power Secure's plan.
I was to say, well, I hope somebody is holding on to the plan.
No.
Yeah, people didn't carry the plan when they left, right?
They still have the business plan, and as a matter of fact, they're following a lot of it. They're following to a certain extent a lot of it of the business plan.
Okay.
And so they need to implement that part of it, and we'll move along.
Gentlemen, with that, I do want to say thank you. I think that's a good note to end on. We certainly have had a very good discussion, a wide-ranging discussion. It's helped me to sort of get a good view of everything that is happening within the BPL world. A lot of times, I think we are so caught up in the headlines and in the news that follows the headlines, we're not seeing the bigger picture. And certainly, we want to thank you for coming on and helping us to see that bigger picture. And certainly, of course, to give your view on the bodies we want on really what needs to happen. And we had a very interesting conversation during the break that when a government has such a large majority in Parliament, many times it operates almost as a freight train. Right. Because you do not have the numbers you need on opposition side to put a halt to some things. And so that's a very interesting, I was hoping that the public would have been able to hear a portion of that, but that's a very interesting perspective that we have to keep in mind and certainly remind the government that, as they are often minded that even though opposition may be small in size, certainly you are speaking to a large group of people who are in support of that group as well. Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you all for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out today to come and speak with us. I certainly know that our viewers have taken a lot away from this discussion tonight. We appreciate it. All the best of luck to you. Two things. Keep that power on, get that bill down. I'll be a happy man. All right, as many other people will be. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for coming. We hope that you've enjoyed tonight's show. To our viewers, special thanks to Paul Maynard, Anthony Christie, Terrence Bethel, my producer, technical staff, and of course your audience for watching. Be sure and join us for more On the Record next week. Once again, I'm Jerome Sawyer, your host. We'll see you next time. Okay.